Welcome to Leccion 2 Grammar that you can find on your grammar pages, the PDF file in your lesson content. This will correspond to pages 45 to 50. We're going to be looking at several lesson objectives. First, agreement of articles, nouns, and adjectives. So we've looked at nouns and articles in the preliminary lessons. Then we looked at adjectives in the last lesson, but now we'll be doing like a summary, putting it all together. We'll look at ER and IR verbs, how to conjugate those, similar to AR. AR is like the cousin, whereas ER and IR is like the brother and sister pair. We're going to look at possession in two ways, possession with de and possession with adjectives, which are called possessive adjectives, my, your, his, her. So in English, that's what they would be, but in Spanish, like mi, tu, su. And then lastly, we'll demonstrate checking into the hospital and identify hospitalized patient needs. To begin, agreement of articles, nouns, and adjectives. Well, in Spanish, we know that the article, noun, and adjective must all agree in number and gender. When we say number, we mean singular and plural, and gender, feminine and masculine. So let's take an adjective like asado, which would come to us in its masculine form. And if we're talking about papa, papa is feminine. So we could say la papa asada. But if it's not papa, it's now the masculine pollo. El pollo is asado. Instead of papa, we have papas. Well, the article is going to tell us, hey, I'm feminine, I'm plural. The article is always the best indicator to know what to do in terms of feminine, masculine, and then the plurals. Las papas asadas. Everything must match. And then los pollos, again, masculine, plural here, los pollos asados. Let's look at some examples here. What would you do? For article 1, mi amigo come. Los, la, or las patatas. For number 2, los estudiantes visitan la, el, o los museos. If you need more time, feel free to pause here and give it a try. Think about it because I'm going to show you the answers next. What would be? It would be las patatas because patatas is feminine and plural, and el museo because museo is masculine and singular. Great. Let's look at ER and IR verbs. We previously looked at the AR set, so this should look somewhat familiar, having 6 conjugations. Before, where we had A's, now we have E's consistently. There's still similarities, like yo gets the O, yo como. Tu carries the S, tu comes. Él, ella, and usted still share, and that's the verb come. Nosotros comemos. We would have the hemos with the E. Vosotros coméis. And then ellos, ellas, and ustedes, they share just like the singular pair shared, and we still have the N for comen. What you should memorize are the 6 conjugations then. So try to repeat after me. Como, comes, come. Comemos, coméis, y comen. We're going to look at the IR pattern next. And there's going to be a lot of similarities. The big difference is going to be in the nosotros and vosotros. So take a look here how the nosotros and vosotros are consistent with ease. But let's look at the IR pattern. Oh, sorry, went too far. Okay. In the IR pattern, we can still see these same endings. But nosotros is going to be imos, I-M-O-S. Vosotros with is, vivís. And that's what makes this the most different. But let's go over each conjugation as to what you should memorize. Yo vivo. Tú vives. Él, ella, usted vive. Nosotros vivimos. Vosotros vivís. Y ellos, ellas, ustedes viven. So to compare them, these are identical except for nosotros and vosotros in terms of their endings. Let's do a little practice, but keep in mind that this is just a summary of everything that you're reading and trying to guide you through it, but you really want to take time to memorize these patterns. So what would you pick to complete the sentence? Los estudiantes comemos, come o comen mucha fruta. And for number 2, la niña vive, vivimos o viven en la casa. So take as much time as you need, but I'm going to show you the answers coming up next. Los estudiantes comen mucha fruta. Y 2, la niña vive en la casa. Because los estudiantes is like ellos, that's why we picked comen. And la niña is like ella, that's why we picked vive. Muy bien. Let's look at possession. So we do not have apostrophe S in Spanish. Instead, we use de plus a noun to express possession or relationship. Unlike English, we do not have the apostrophe S. So we can't say la abuela's café. Those are Spanish words, but not the right structure. So we have to start with the coffee, start with the item, el café de la abuela. Now, it could be a relationship. For example, let's say it's my friend's brother. Friend is amigo and brother is hermano. It could be el hermano de mi amigo. But it's kind of harsh to say start with what's owned because it's not that the people are owned, but that's the best way I can explain it to you. Then use de and the person owning. Again, el café de la abuela. Another example, la leche de los bebés. Start with leche, and then whose milk is it? De los bebés. I'll give you a few more examples. Let's say el doctor de Juan. If it's a female, structure is still the same. La doctora de Juan. These are not sentences, they're just phrases to show possession with de. Let's do a little practice. What would you do for the girl's milk and Jordy's aunt? Aunt is la tía and milk is la leche. So again, please pause and try it out, and then we can go over the responses. Okay, I'm going to go over the responses now. La leche de la niña. Start with the milk. La leche. De, and then whose is it? La niña. Aunt first. La tía de, and then whose aunt? Jordy. La tía de Jordy. ¿Sí? El café de Juana. El jugo de Daniel. See, we want to start with the item, de, and then the person who owns it. Let's look at possession with adjective. Now, this could look a little more confusing than it is. Honestly, this is going to be the key to learning this. Context. Learning possessive adjectives through context. The best one is starting with my. Mi, like mi casa. Mi café, mi jugo. Now, if I own something or I have something that's plural, I'm going to use mis. Mis amigos. Mis libros. Mis clases. There's really more than 2, but we're going to look here at 2 ways to say your. There really should not be an S there. Your. This first your is familiar. If I'm addressing you on a first name basis, I can use tu, like tu familia, tu café, tu teléfono, tu carro. But if I'm being formal with you, like on a last name, señor, doctor, using a title, I would say su. Su familia, su teléfono, su casa. That's why we say mi casa es su casa. We're trying to be more formal. Things that belong to him or her are his and her. So examples would be el café de María, right? Maria's café. Another way to say that is su café. You only know that it means her having more information. Like if you see the phrase, oh, ¿dónde está el café de María? Well, where's Maria's coffee? Then you can say, oh, su café, her coffee. See how that could work? Now let's use a masculine example. So, ¿dónde está el café de Tomás? El café de Tomás, that could be his coffee. So then I would say, su café está aquí. Only if you give me the names Maria and Tomás do I know if it's his or her. We're not going to use it's really, so I'm going to kind of just skip over that. You can Read more about it in the examples. There's also additional videos. If you ever want more help, I can guide you into more videos. So nuestro ends with an O, which means it can have a feminine. So for example, jugo is masculine, nuestro jugo. But let's say you're going to have something feminine like doctora, like our doctor. Nuestra doctora, nuestro doctor. Our doctors, nuestros doctores. If it's all female doctors, nuestras doctoras. So our depends, just like any adjective, on what is the noun. Is it masculine, feminine, singular, plural? We're really not going to use vuestro because we don't use vosotros too much. But if you do use vuestro, then you would see this as your. But honestly, stick with tu or su as needed. Let's do a little practice. ¿Dónde están los amigos de Estefan? Los amigos de Estefan is the phrase we're trying to figure out. Would it be su amigo está aquí? Sus amigos están aquí? Or mis amigos están aquí? What is the proper response to ¿Dónde están los amigos de Estefan? And then for number 2, ¿Dónde están tus padres? Remember, we're responding to this. ¿Dónde están tus padres? Would it be sus padres están en el taxi? Mis padres están en el taxi? O nuestros padres están en el taxi? So think about it, because I'm going to give you the responses, so pause if you need to. The answers would be sus amigos. Los amigos de Estefan are his friends. So we could say sus amigos. Again, it's sus because of the word amigos being plural. And if I'm answering, where are your parents? I'm going to say my parents. So mis padres están en el taxi. Okay, I'm going to pause here and just check out part 2 of Lección 2 for the remainder, looking at some of the vocab in practice. Muchas gracias.